Hey, I'm Eric Goodwin. I am a caricature artist and I love music. I also make some music here and there, some of which is on my channel, but mostly I wanted to do a reaction to a Radiohead album. I was listening to Amnesiac about a year ago, and during the first song, I had the first ever feeling of wanting to do a reaction video. There was something about how the songs were hitting me that were extremely unique, surprising, and made me really excited. But I'm like, well, I've already started listening to this album, and I'm not sure if it would be too late to kind of pause the song and start over. I guess I'll just listen to it. By the time I get to the second song, I had a feeling again of, man, I should have been recording. Maybe it's too late. Maybe it's not. Got to the third track, and I'm like, man, I really should have recorded this. So I listened to the full album. My mind was blown by Amnesiac, and I thought, well, maybe if I wait long enough, I can record a reaction to it on my second listen if I kind of forget how it sounds. So I'm waiting months and months, and I get to a point where I'm like, I just want to hear it for the second time. And I have such a strong impression in my head of how it sounded that trying to record a first reaction to it as a second listen would be kind of counterfeit. So I listened to it a second time, loved it, listened to it a bunch of times since then, and figured I'll wait until I'm ready to listen to the next album, which is Hail to the Thief. So a little bit of my backstory of listening to Radiohead. I'd listened to the OK Computer album back in college, and I liked it a good amount. I listened to it a few times, but it wasn't quite up my alley at that time. I think I was into more heavy stuff, so I loved Radiohead's Creep from their first album, and I think Paranoid Android resonated with me back then. But, I was more into metal and punk. Then I get into like a long phase of electro and rap, and then I started getting back into rock a couple years ago, rediscovered my love for Tool, and have been obsessed with them really ever since I started listening to them in high school. And there was a similar feeling I felt when I started listening to Radiohead again. I listened to the OK Computer album, which I hadn't heard in years, and was like, whoa, okay, maybe I should really give this band a chance. But the reason why I listened to OK Computer again was I was in a local beer store and some music was playing and it sounded really cool. And I thought, is this Radiohead? And I asked the guy who was working there, and he said, no, this is actually Tom York's solo project. I forget which song it was. But it turns out he was a huge Radiohead fan and highly recommended that I really give them a chance. So that night I went home, listened to Pablo Honey in the Benz, and then OK Computer again. I think all on the same night while I was working on some art. And I was very wowed by them, especially by the Benz. I think the Benz really started like splitting their sound kind of two different ways. One way which was very kind of experimental and heavy, and another way which was a little bit more pop. The stuff I wouldn't normally listen to, but now that I was giving them more of an ear, I started liking quite a bit of that as well. And on the second listen to the Benz, really liked it. I hadn't listened to Pablo Honey again until recently, a couple days ago. And I kind of forgot how rock-centric it is. It's really not that pop. So I've listened to OK Computer, listened to Kid A. Kid A, the first listen, I don't think I was quite ready to fully give it my attention. I kind of listened to it casually while I was going to the park, and it wasn't really matching the mood of my day. So I think later that day or the next day, I listened again with better headphones and really really gave it like my full attention and loved it the second time. So that's kind of a confusing, convoluted backstory, I guess, to my appreciation of Radiohead. But I think what really resonates about them to me is how experimental they start getting, especially with OK Computer, and then Kid A going a totally different direction, Amnesiac kind of going a similar way, but even, and in some ways even more abstract, especially with some songs that were more almost like noise music, kind of like art music, you know, the type of stuff I would hear when I went to art school. So coming to Hail to the Thief, I really don't know where they're going to go. Are they going to go maybe back towards their rock roots? Are they going to go more abstract and electro and experimental? I don't know. And I don't think I've heard any of the songs from this album either. So it's possible I have. I haven't listened to Hail to the Thief or anything that comes after. So I think I have 4 albums, including this one, which is pretty exciting because this has become like one of my favorite bands. And I've listened to Kid A probably at least 30 times, Amnesiac at least a dozen times. That one's pretty new to me. I started listening to that a few months ago. OK Computer I probably heard 50 times. So I'm excited to see really where they go, and if they keep surprising me like I hope they will, which made me want to start doing reaction videos in the first place. My first one I did a couple months ago with Deftones, which I also kind of got back into and started listening to some other stuff I hadn't heard. And I did that kind of as a warm-up before I did this next one. So I think I've been blabbering long enough. I'm going to be playing the music from my phone, which I bought to my AirPod Maxes. And I haven't listened to anything on these headphones in a while either. So this is kind of like when I'm really kind of treating myself with music, I put these headphones on. I'm not sponsored or anything. I just, it kind of made me want to rediscover a lot of music again. And listen to new music because they just sound so good. Okay. Let me just hydrate a little bit. And we'll see how this goes. The first track is 2 + 2 = 5. I'm pretty sure I've seen that title before, but I don't think I've heard it. So, all right, Radiohead's Hail to the Thief, 2 + 2 = 5. I'm almost not even ready. I've been like getting ready for this for almost a year. Okay, so 2 + 2 = 5. It already seems abstract. Cool. Super spacey.
Are you such a dreamer? I'll lay down the tracks.
This is very different. I like all the kind of crackly abstract stuff happening here with the guitar over here.
It's the devil's way.
Oh man. I love it already. Oof, shit, I just got chills. This is awesome. Oh man, that's heavy. Wow. Wow. expect it to sound so like heavy rock again after Kid A and Amnesiac. Oh man. One of my favorite Radiohead songs already. Wow. Wow. That was fucking awesome. That was almost more back towards like Paranoid Android, but then with like the more glitchy abstract electro experimentation of the next two albums, but it felt like somewhat familiar, but also very new at the same time. That was, oh man, I feel like that was top 5 Radiohead songs for what I've heard so far, for my personal favorite. Like somewhere in there. That was so different from any of their other songs, any other song I've heard before. Man. Just all the sound design of it alone was just really creative, just with the different stereo panning of where things were. The different types of sounds and frequencies they were using was just incredibly innovative and surprising. I was just laughing so much because it was just so awesome. I honestly didn't expect it to be that cool. So for an album opener, I don't know if it's going to be like as good as that. But man, that just gets me even more excited about where they might go next. And not only do I have this whole album, I have like 3 others and then Tom York's side projects, and there's probably other stuff out there too. Oh man. Yeah, I got like literal chills. I was so excited and I felt so happy while listening to that. Man. All right, the next one started. So let me bring that all the way back. Okay, I think I'm ready for the next track. This is track 2. Sit Down, Stand Up. No idea where they're going. Let's see what happens. And... very electro again. Huh. Haven't heard those sounds in Radiohead before. It feels more like polyrhythmic than normal for them. I have heard that they go more kind of abstract with the polyrhythms. It's more kind of ambient, abstract. Ooh, I like that electro bass. Oh yeah. Oh man. This is cool. Oh man. They're really building. Oh yeah. Oh man. I felt the build, but I did not expect that. See, I just had a feeling they were going to go more and more towards my sensibilities with like weirdness and creativity in music, and this is exactly up my alley. Oh yeah, so much tension. Some lasers. Wow. Okay, I'm gonna pause that. Dang. That was Again, very different from the first track and very different from what they've done before. Like they are just, I feel like building even more dynamics than maybe with the last two albums. Like they just started getting more into abstract sound design with electro experimentation. This feels like it's kind of the next level after that. Not necessarily better, but just more, just more of a range of dynamics from softer to loud. Maybe if you put them side by side, it's similar, but it does feel like it's a next step towards something even more different than before. Differenter than before. Like I could feel that kind of like riser kind of leading towards some kind of change, but where they changed, I did not expect that. That was even more out of left field than I expected. I love that. So far, this album's fantastic. Wow, that was really cool. That was really cool. Like, yeah, if I'm laughing, I am loving it. That's just like, laughter comes from some kind of surprise, right? So far this has been very surprising, and I was expecting to be surprised. So next is track 3, Sail to the Moon. And... oh. Wow, it feels like it's really building towards heaviness and then gets light. When you expect it to be extra heavy. It's almost like ocean waves. Like they kind of crash, but then kind of relaxes again.
I said to me, and how much did it cost?
Like he's just getting better and better at singing. Relaxingly trippy. Definitely gonna listen to this album again while I smoke weed, because this is perfect for that. There's a reason why I wore my Pink Floyd shirt. I feel like Radiohead and Tool are kind of taking the reins of Pink Floyd to do trippy psychedelic music. I like that, like a little off-pitch vibrato. Wow. Man. That was a very pretty song. Very spacey, soothing. Definitely felt outer spacey. Felt like you're kind of at the ocean. Yeah, the very like wavy and floaty. Yeah, like the way he can sing just seems like there's no effort put into it. Like he's just so good that he can just do that and make it seem like the voice is just making you feel like you're floating with how his voice floats. Like he'll have a little bit of like tension in it, a little bit of vibrato here and there, a little bit of like a little like vocal fry, like a little rasp to it. But then he can just like take it to so like heavenly and just kind of floating. Um, but I really love the beginning of that when the chords were like really building, and then when you think it's going to be like a louder like last chord, it just went to the more like kind of trippy guitar chord instead, where it was just lighter and it kind of brought you back down to like a little bit more peacefulness. But they used a lot of notes in that kind of near the end, where it felt like, ooh, it's not the right note, but it's the perfect note to make you feel a little like off, a little uneasy, a little bit of tension away from that otherwise relaxing and heavenly feeling of the song. So they knew exactly what they were doing and trying to build a little bit of tension amongst the otherwise very serene backdrop and atmosphere that they were creating. So that was beautiful. So next up we get track 5 out of 14. This is called Backdrifts. Let me start that all the way over. And here we go. Come on. They love the stereo panning. I love it too. This one's super outer spacey. I'd say this whole album is very outer spacey. Oh. It's almost like electro hip hop, rock pop. I don't know. This might be my favorite album. I'm not normally a dancer, but I gotta do something. This is just so good. I listen to a lot of electro, but this is different. Like the way they do it's just more like smooth and yeah, just like trippy. I feel like Idiotic was like kind of the precursor to this. I don't know what I'm doing, but I gotta do something. With all this energy, this is awesome. It's so strange, but fun. Yeah, I would have like really regretted listening to this without recording a reaction, because I just would have been talking to myself instead of talking to myself to a camera to other people that might see this. I'd say this is more like fun than I expected. Like normally Radiohead is just very enjoyable, but this just feels like super dancey and just like playful, you know? I did not expect that. This came out in 2003. If this came out now, it would be like revolutionary. This is crazy how old this is. Because it's so fresh. Like nobody else has really done this. With all the electro I've listened to that's modern, like it's just something so different. I feel like Radiohead is just like the perfect music to listen to with good headphones. It's just designed for like the full stereo experience with every track. Man, it just gets better and better. Like, I can't believe that's only been 4 tracks. If it were just those 4, I'd be like, this is my favorite Radiohead EP. It was it's just so solid so far. Not even solid, like just beyond creative. Music is definitely an art form, but some musicians aren't necessarily doing anything new. They're just kind of copying what other people have done. I feel like Radiohead is really good at trying things that people haven't really done before and haven't been able to mimic even since then, like in 20 years since this album came out. It's kind of crazy that it took me this long to like fully appreciate Radiohead. Maybe I would have liked it, honestly, if I'd listened even 10 years ago. But the fact that I can listen to it now and have it be like one of my favorite things was worth the wait. Because it's like this music was made for me. Like so much music is, like I could see a lot of other bands being popular because it's easy to understand or appreciate. I think with Radiohead, like you have to really understand and appreciate good creative music. But you have to be pretty open-minded. You have to, you probably have to like a lot of other music that's very different from Radiohead to like Radiohead. Like electro, rock, jazz, art rock. Like there's elements of hip hop in that song. That was crazy. How he's singing is super unconventional with the cadences he's using, all the rhythms. And I'm taking too long. Let's get on to the next track. This is Go to Sleep.
Something for the vagabond man.
Almost like a Western feeling to it. Oh, wow. I feel like it's in a weird time signature, but it's hard to catch. Maybe like, I feel like it's over 8 beats before it cycles again. Sound a little like Neil Young there. Almost a little Led Zeppelin. It's cool that they brought the guitars back with the electro. Oh, I like that. Stone Age a little bit, even though that came after this, I think, or maybe around the same time. When they do like solos, they're always a little weird, which I love. How did I not listen to this? I'm almost a little angry at myself that I didn't listen to this until now. But, fuck it. It's awesome now. And that's the track. Go to Sleep. That was... Man. I know it's new to me. It's easy to think the new stuff is your favorite, but honestly, I could see this becoming my favorite so far out of all the albums. Pablo, Benz, okay, Kid A, Amnesiac. This is the sixth one. This might be my favorite. I was hoping I wouldn't be disappointed because I got so hyped up the first time I was listening to Amnesiac. I'm like, this is who I need to do reactions to. If I'm going to do reactions, it's for Radiohead. There's not too many bands where I just want to talk about my first listen to their music. But this is absolutely amazing. And it's like it's existed for 20 years. I could have loved this album for 20 years. That's just I just feel dumb that it's just been there, and I'm like, I don't know about Radiohead. Maybe I'll check it out sometime. But I guess when I just listened to it, it was the right time for me to check it out. So hopefully between this and the next album, I don't wait another like 5-6 months since I heard Amnesiac the second time, or a year since I heard it the first time. Definitely gonna get to the next one sooner, but give this one a few listens before I go on to the next. Okay, next up is Where I End and You Begin. Just drink a little energy drink. It's only 10 o'clock at night, so this shouldn't keep me up. Okay, Where I End and You Begin. Spacey. Sounds like aliens communicating. Again, a fun beat. And more rock based than I thought, again, that this album would be.
I'm sorry for the dinosaurs on the earth. The sky turns green where I am and you begin.
This feels very cinematic. Like that bass is so low, and the trippy stuff is just so floaty and three-dimensional. Well, he's up on the clouds, so that makes sense why it's so floaty. I love how, like, the drumming is pretty crisp, like really cuts through the mix, so it really drives it, because a lot of the rest is very kind of fuzzy or non-distinct. Like his voice is pretty clear, but it's also very reverby. Okay, well here the guitar is very crisp too. I feel like I can hear where this would influence some bands like Mumford and Sons, or what's the other band I'm thinking of, where they're very like kind of mountain men type of singing bands, but it's a lot more electro than those bands would go. Much more atmospheric and synthy. I feel like I haven't heard him sing this low before. He can sing so high, but this is very... He's singing more in the register of like the bass. Oh, I love the panning over here.
I will eat you alive.
Yeah, I haven't heard him sing like that before. That felt very new. Like, I've never heard him sing like so bassy before. Like he was just up closer to the mic than normal with like a lot of bass coming through. And just it was just using his voice where it complemented the song to kind of ground it down low with how low he was singing. Like it wouldn't have necessarily made as much sense to sing super high like he can for that song. And there were a lot of instruments that were playing very in the higher octaves as well, so he wasn't really needed up there as much. Man. Every track has been fantastic. Where I end and you begin. We Suck Young Blood. It's an interesting name for the next one. That's track 7 out of 14. Man, we're not even halfway through. That's crazy. Okay. And let's begin. How they're using a lot of dissonance.
Are you hungry? Are you sick?
It's an interesting choice of claps.
Are you begging for break?
I'd say this is the most jazzy they've ever
Are
sounded.
you strung up?
So intentional with where he uses vibrato and where he doesn't. So interesting. This one's almost so slow that moving to it doesn't even make sense. It's more of just like a feeling they're creating. Like a slight bobbing. Like where they decide to add different instrumental and vocal elements at certain points. So unorthodox. The last thing I expected was a tempo change.
Won't let the nervous bury me.
Wow. That was maybe the most unique one on the album compared to the others. The most different, the differentest track so far. Yeah, that's a weird one. Amongst a lot of weird ones. I liked it. Man, when it changed to like incredibly fast and strange, that was so out of left field. It's like they get you so like relaxed with it, and then it just went very like abstract jazzy for like not too long either before it went back to the slow stuff. But yeah, just how they kind of orchestrated the sounds in that, like amongst the stereo spectrum, and was just really interesting. And then his voice being multi-layered, some of it being higher and a little bit more nasally, and then some of it being lower and smoother and more of like a left and right versus a center. Vocal was yeah, just they know how to build a track like they're sculpting or like they're creating like a sound collage, even more than like it feeling like a song. I mean, there was some movement I wanted to do, even with the slower pace of it. But overall, it's like just so slow that it's just, you're almost looking at how it's pieced together. Like, here's that part. Okay, here's this. Here's that. Here's this over that. Here's this on the sides. So it's almost like you're seeing like a tapestry in slow motion being put together, which is not how a song normally feels. You might feel like things layer and build, but that was almost more like the visual, like the audio representation of a visual collage. Maybe that makes sense. Okay, I'm only halfway through the album, and I've already been recording for an hour. So this is going to be a long video, maybe 2 hours long. Is anyone going to watch it? I don't know. Is anyone going to watch all of it? I hope so. I think it's not boring. I mean, the longer I pause and think, the more boring it gets. But so I'm not gonna just do that. Let's. First half was just insanely creative and unpredictable and unexpected. Even though I did expect the unexpected, it's even more unexpected than I expected, which is unexpected. Next up is number 8, The Gloaming, because we all know what that means. I don't know what gloaming means. It might be, did they make it up? Who knows? Let's check it out. Wow. Man. I love how they can go from just very abstract, like bit crushed noises to then like it gets like a driving beat behind it. I love all these sounds. I feel like I haven't heard them use any of these sounds before either. Sometimes I'm avoiding looking at the camera, but should I just be looking at the camera? No. This is interesting.
They will suck you down to the other side.
Oh.
They will suck you down to the other
I like that.
side. They will suck you down to the other side. They should be raining. They should be raining. They should be raining. They should be raining.
Should be raining or should be Reagan? They know how to use like their whole sound is ear candy. Instead of just like that being background stuff, often that is the stuff. That's like the main stuff is the ear candy. I don't remember them using like an 808 type of bass like that before. Okay. That was the Gloaming. Is it like when your glow is roaming? It's the gloaming? I don't know, that was stupid. That thing I said was stupid. The song was pretty brilliant, pretty interesting. It, yeah, again, like they're not afraid to not really have a typical song structure. Like, it feels more like art than a song sometimes. Like, how can we create a type of mood that kind of shifts? It doesn't feel like, all right, here's the chorus. Now we need a bridge so it doesn't seem so boring in between the verses and the chorus and the next chorus. This is more like, we're just going to make something that sounds interesting and use different types of sounds that balance each other out. And let's create something where it's almost like a rhythm between left and right and panning. And let's piece together something that is just different. And I feel like their songs are kind of going more like, this is the experience of a song instead of, let's go back to that thing you're familiar with. Instead, it's just like, let's just change how things sound until we get to a point where it's like, that idea's completed. And now let's go on to the next sound ideas, which is more of like what I would think of as just like audio art. Like, I went to art school, and sometimes you just experiment with things and try to do something you hadn't really seen done before. I feel like Radiohead is just I feel like Radiohead is art and audio form, and they are just like experimenting and trying stuff. And they're like, yep, that sounds interesting. Now let's try something totally different for the next thing. We haven't used a sound like this before. Let's couple that with another sound we haven't used before. And let's kind of build it, maybe build some tension, and then just take some things away, speed things up. They're just like playing around with what you can do with audio more than thinking of it as like music almost. It's kind of beyond music. It's somewhere between like abstract art and music. Let's say that. Next up is There. And here we go. Here we go. It's more like tribal drumming than I've heard them use before. Using a synth sound, I think, and then like changing the vibrancy of it. Oh, what does this remind me of? Almost like 70s rock, coupled with tribal music. I can't think of a single Radiohead song I've heard before that sounds like this. It's just uncharted territory with every track. Wow. It feels so good to finally hear this album. This must have come before Death Cab for Cutie, right? But that sound kind of reminds me of this. This is amazing. I fucking love this. Well, this one sounds more like a conventional rock song, but it's still very different. Different from normal, from what you'd normally hear. That was so good. There. Yeah, that was probably less art rock and more rock, but done in such a way that I'm sure was very new for 2003. It sounds more like something that would come out today, honestly. I'm sure they inspired tons of bands. Well, I know they have. Muse and Coldplay. This sounds more of like I don't know what that would be. I guess 2000s. Well, this is 2003. The 2010s music, maybe. Which is, there's rock to it, but it's a little bit more ambient. There's something you'd hear like playing in the mall where you wouldn't question it. It wouldn't stand out super strong playing with other songs. But it's just so well done that it doesn't matter that it's less abstract than the other songs. Like that was just such a feel-good, like just musically satisfying song. That one felt like a song. Yeah. Wow. Next track, number 10, I Will. I like the very low sound with the very high. A little bit more of like the Beck territory with the low. Coming out of your shell with white elephants. Interesting way of putting voices together. Little babies. Is it the fact that he's talking about babies that it now sounds a little bit like a strange lullaby? Yeah, that was short. Short and sweet. And sweet. Very sweet and tender, like for a baby's lullaby. I wonder if that is kind of the intention behind it. Yeah, like the way that he was just going very low and then so high, it's like you couldn't even make out what he was saying. It was like almost the dog level hearing, where dogs can hear and humans can't. It was like getting real up there, and then kind of went to the side more with a little bit more intelligible high singing. And then it kind of felt like it was here, and then it would kind of split to the side. It was like kind of shaping this sound with just a very minimalistic guitar. I believe it was just guitar and like two or three voices. Well, they haven't done that before. Yeah, they can like really build things up into a very complex song structure. And they can also go for super minimalism, but in a very creative way that just makes them stand out so much. We're getting kind of near the end of the album. I think it's going a little faster now. Maybe I'm saying less. But I'm enjoying the hell out of this album. Like, this is just a masterpiece of song making, of music making. All right, so next up, we got a punch up at a wedding. Does that mean, like, punching things up? Let's make it better. Does that mean, like, someone's getting punched at a wedding? Does it mean someone has some fruit punch and they're holding it up at a wedding? That's all I can think of. Well, let's find out. They might not explain it. I'm not reading lyrics, by the way, because I just want to hear everything as sounds. I haven't really read too many lyrics by Radiohead, honestly. But I just like how things sound. There's probably a lot of cool lyricism going on, but mostly I'm listening to the melodies, how his voice sounds, how things are arranged compositionally, and the rhythms or cadences of his singing. I'm sure the lyrics are pretty cool too. But let's check out a punch up at a wedding. It's a little 80s. Cool little bass with piano. Wow. It's like an orchestra of voices.
Nothing's ever good enough for you.
I would not have ever guessed Radiohead would sound like this.
Wasn't like
I don't even know what this sounds like.
You've come here just to start a fight.
It's definitely rock-ish.
A drunken punch-up at a wedding, yeah.
Ooh. Little distorted guitar over here now. With like the pluckiness of the bass over here. It's cool balance. This one feels more like something you'd find on vinyl from like the 70s in like the rock or jazz section. Feels very like, feels old. Doesn't feel dated, but it feels maybe a little retro. Even that synth sounds like a little more 80s. That's a little like The Who. Whoa. Next one started. I heard the first half second. Yeah, that felt a little like 70s, 80s-ish. Like a little bit of The Who with that that little keyboard plucky thing, and almost like a little bit like Pink Floyd with some of their more kind of, not like the spacey rock version of Floyd, but more of like the guitar rock version of Floyd. Maybe a little bit more like Animals style Floyd. But then also had this laid back kind of jazzy lounge feeling to it. The percussion sounded kind of more 70s, 80s, or like early synthesizer type 80s percussion, maybe. Yeah, they're just not afraid to try something, even if it sounds totally different from what they've done before. Like that wouldn't feel at home at all on OK Computer. Or I don't know if that would have really fit with any of their other previous albums. Like every song in this album somehow feels like something they haven't done before, even though a lot of those things are in very different parts of the musical spectrum. But because of that, I think they fit together because they're all so out of bounds of where they've normally made music before. Like that's the connecting thread between all these songs, is that they feel just like they're in the uncharted territory outside of where they've been. Even though this was totally different from the previous track, totally different from all the other tracks, but they somehow go together. At least to me, because they're all new. Maybe that's part of it. But there hasn't been like one distinctive sound for the album. I think overall there's like a lot of variety on this album. And that's what seems to connect it. It kind of feels like a collection of songs more than necessarily connected songs. But it's a collection that feels like a collective of experimentation with music. So the next one, I don't know how to say. Myxomatosis. Myxomatosis. Who knows what that means? But let's see. This is the third to last song. Let's check it out. Whoa. Oh. At first, for a split second, it sounded a little like the Black Keys, and then towards like Queens of the Stone Age. But now it's just like more like fuzzy synthy guitar. I love the sound of that. That's cool. Yeah, I don't know what the time signature is, but if you do this, you can still keep up with it. I think it's just 4/4. Myxomatosis. Oh, yeah. creative with cadences on this album.
Don't know why I feel so dumb,
Yeah. Wow. Interesting to take out that main synthy, guitar-y, fuzzy sound. Man. That's got to be one of my favorites on the album. And man, in the context of Radiohead songs I've heard, that's got to be like, it's got to be at least top 10 for me. Just how cool that was, how different it was, the rhythms within it, how he delivered his vocal performance was just so catchy and unexpected and creative, like all happening at the same time. Like I could kind of predict it, but not quite. But it makes me want to like totally memorize, this whole album, but that song specifically, just so satisfying with how fuzzy and distorted and fuzzy that like synthy guitarish type sound was that was leading the way. And yeah, his voice, even just like the sound of his voice was pretty different from what I've heard before. Like, I don't know. Yeah, he's just kind of all over the map with how his voice is sounding, which is pretty cool. Man, only two left. Scatterbrain and A Wolf at the Door. Let's check out Scatterbrain. I'm excited. Very different vibe from the last one. Percussion is just so different on this album. It's super interesting and driving. It really keeps the feeling going forward. Ooh. The tension they make with those like intentionally kind of sour notes is great. I feel like on a first listen, you can catch some of the weirder notes because they stand out to you more. You kind of get used to them after a while. Because it's part of like changing the feeling. The guitar sounds a little like OK Computer type stuff. I love how much guitar is on this album. It's a really interesting tension they're creating. The different guitars. Oh, I like that. Yeah, are they playing in different keys? Like, they sound like they don't want to work together, but they do. So they're creating this cool tension together. Just down to the drums. Yeah, wow. I feel like the scales or the notes they're choosing on this album are really intentionally like dissonant to create a certain type of feeling where it's like a little uneasy. It's never, or maybe not never, but it doesn't often feel just like at ease. It feels like they want you to notice that things aren't quite right with how the notes are kind of vibing or not quite vibing with each other. I mean, maybe that was perfectly in the same key between the two, and the notes that they're choosing are creating the tension, but it feels like they're just like doing two different feelings at the same time, which creates a different feeling when combined. So yeah, it had this kind of like pleasant vibe of almost like being outside, having a picnic, but maybe you're watching a family like fight in front of you or something. You can't quite like make it out. It's a little far away, but you just have this feeling of like, things aren't quite matching the scenery or something. I don't know what I'm talking about, but I just had that feeling of, yeah, it's almost like you're having a picnic, but maybe you're having a weird feeling that's not quite content. Like that was kind of what I was getting from the guitars. But it sounded really cool. So everything I've said about this album, I mean as a compliment. In case you couldn't tell, like it's just amazing that there's 3 other albums after this too. I can't even imagine where they go. But this is maybe my favorite album by them. Because I don't even hear people talk about Hail to the Thief. Like they seem to consider OK Computer like the best. But I feel like this is so far beyond it with experimentation for sure. And I like weird stuff, and this album has gotten very weird. Okay, one last track, A Wolf at the Door. And this is the album closer. Is that a harpsichord? Sounds like a very old-timey type of keyboard.
Drag him out your window, dragging out the dead, singing a mess. You snakes and ladders, flip the lid. Eye pops the cracker, snaps you in the head, naps you in the neck, kicks you in the teeth, steel toe caps, takes all your credit cards. Get up, get the guns, get the eggs, get the flat in the face, the flat in the face, the flat in the face. Dance you fucker, don't you?
Almost like a rap.
Don't you flat in the face.
Feels a lot like Beck.
It's give and take it with a pinch of salt, take it to the tax now. Move me inside.
Almost like Beck's Loser, where he's kind of rapping. Has that husky kind of rap to his voice.
Keep the world from the door. Calls me on the phone, tells me all the ways that he's gonna mess me up.
I would not have known this was Radiohead just by listening to it. Maybe with the sound of the guitars, but not by like his vocal delivery or sound. The sound of his voice is so different. It's one of the weirder ones, so I like it a lot. Step a while to a week, take a plan. If someone else is gonna come and clean it up, burn the legs for the job. Someone always keep the wall from the door. But he calls me up, said he's gonna mess me up. Steal all my children if I don't pay the ransom. So strange. So nice. So musically advanced too. Oh man, kind of sad it's over. That was a hell of an album. That was one of the most unique albums I've ever heard, and maybe the most unique Radiohead album I've heard so far. I don't know if they get even weirder, more abstract and experimental, but man, that was like tailor-made for my sensibilities of wanting and enjoying to be surprised by music. The range on this album is insane. And yet from like song to song, there's never really like maybe the first two are the most similar, but maybe not. I feel like they just did something so different with every track. Man, I loved it. That was that was a masterpiece. Um Similarly to the album cover, I feel like it was kind of just a collection like of different things stitched together. But it felt like an album. It felt like they all belonged on that album. Just everywhere they went musically was always interesting. There were only a couple tracks that really felt like, okay, I could see like this being on the radio. I could see this like being played with other bands. But even in those rare instances, it felt like, oh, this was so influential for so many bands that it almost became normalized later. But I'm sure that this was super fresh when that came out. But most of the songs on this album are super fresh now, 20 years later, and haven't really been mimicked or successfully mimicked. It still sounds like if this came out now, holy shit, this is so new and original. And it's 20 years old? That's insane. If I had to like go through and pick my favorites, I don't even know. I'm definitely going to listen to this over and over again. I mean, the first track was such a standout, maybe because it's the first track, but also because it was just so cool. I don't honestly, it's hard to remember what was what. Just collectively, that was just a crazy ride from song to song. I'm sure if I like had my eyes closed the whole time and if I were like laying down and more comfortable instead of kind of somewhat uncomfortably sitting over here, and had a little bit of cannabis in my system, it would be just as cool as the first time, if not even more so. But I don't know when I'm gonna move on to the next album, but hopefully maybe in a month or so. I need some time to digest this one, I think. I gotta hear it a few times and not. I mean, I'll be hearing it a few times just by editing it, but then I'm gonna want to take a break probably for a week before I listen to it again, like fully listening to it. Um, but man, fantastic. Loved it. It's hard to know, like, if this is really my favorite album after one listen. After a few more times, I might think like, okay, maybe I like Kid A more. No, I like this more than Kid A. And I think I like this more than Amnesiac. And OK Compute. I think this is my favorite so far. I mean, In Rainbows is supposed to be like one of their best, and that's next. I'm very excited about that. I've heard like a few seconds of a song. Um, but besides that, and then the two after that, a Moonshaped Pool, I think, is the last one. And what else? Looking it up. The King of Limbs. Yeah, I'm excited about that one too. And then probably get into Tom York's stuff too. Well, hope you enjoyed it. That was amazing for me. So if you get any enjoyment out of watching me enjoy it, then hell yeah. Because I was just so happy that whole time listening to it. I've been waiting for this for like a year too. Ever since I kind of rediscovered Radiohead and started from the beginning. Man. All right, well, thanks for watching. Please don't tell me anything about what's to come. I don't want to know any spoilers. I hate spoilers. But talk about, if anything, like what you think of this album and what was your first experience like when you heard this for the first time. Please don't tell me what's coming next, what I should expect, where they go musically. I kind of want to go in as blind as I can. But maybe this kind of brought back a little bit of the feeling you had when you first heard it. Maybe you had a totally different experience. I don't know. But I had a hell of a lot of fun. So hope you guys enjoyed it. Thanks for watching.